Hi, I'm Mike from the Bruce County Public Library. With this winter weather comes a lot of time playing outside and getting cold in the snow, and with that comes a definite need for something to help warm us up when we go back inside. Now, a really popular choice is hot chocolate. But what would you say to a nice mug of hot chocolate cake? I thought you'd say something like, yes please. So let's go inside and give it a try. I'm about ready to go in myself right now. Well, here we are back inside. We're in the kitchen in the back of the Chesley Library. And here is where we're going to do our demonstration of kitchen science today. We'll be baking up a delicious chocolate mug cake using just a mug for each person involved. You can do the same recipe as many times as you want. We'll be cooking it in the microwave. You need a little bit of adult supervision. The mug will be hot coming out of the microwave. We'll do a little careful measuring. I have a few tips and tricks, but it's all pretty straightforward. And let's see how we do. I'll just go over the ingredients we need. The recipe is available just below the video in the description, but I'll also be mentioning how much you need of each thing. So if you're ready to go, I'm ready to go. I've got my mug, I've got all my ingredients, and just to help a little bit with the cleanup, my first tip is to take a little butter and grease the inside of the mug. You can just do it with your finger. Make sure you've all washed your hands first, but just grease around because after the cake cooks in here, it can get pretty sticky around the edges, but I promise you it is well worth it. Here are all the ingredients and tools that you'll need to make these mug cakes. We'll start with the mug. I've greased mine with butter, but if you're avoiding dairy, you're welcome to use a little oil or cooking spray. You can rub around or spray around in there. You'll need a 1/4 cup measuring cup, or anything bigger that will help you measure a 1/4 cup, and a set of measuring spoons. Here we have flour. We'll need a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. We'll need 1/4 cup again of white sugar, 2 tablespoons of cocoa, 1/8 of a tablespoon, that's a very small amount, of baking soda, 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, 3 tablespoons of milk, which I have in the first container, 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil in the second container, and 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. All those will be put into your mug and stir it up. And then we microwave. For a dairy-free version, we'll replace the milk with 1.5 tablespoons of unsweetened applesauce and 1.5 tablespoons of water. So I'll begin by mixing all the dry ingredients in the mug first. So I'll start with 1/4 cup of flour. Get it pretty level. Flour we don't pack down, and you measure pretty accurately. For this recipe, it doesn't matter too much, but all the same, it's worth noting. 1/4 cup of sugar. This sugar is a little darker because it's cane sugar. You can use regular white sugar. And dump that in. Now, as I said, 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. Now this is just regular cocoa powder. It's not sweetened hot chocolate mix or anything like that. Just ground up coconuts. And here we use a very special ingredient, baking soda. Now some sets of measuring spoons don't have an 1/8 teaspoon measure. You can try doing just 1/2 of a 1/4 teaspoon measure, if that's what you've got. But it's not very much. 1/8 of a teaspoon is just a little tiny mound in your hand like that. And finally, 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. Now, we'll mix all that up with a handy spoon, just to get everything mixed around. Now, what's important is to mix that baking soda evenly throughout this mixture. It is responsible for making all kinds of things happen in your baking. Everything else tastes good. Baking soda, if you taste it, not many people find it very tasty, but it is what makes things rise in this recipe. And to rise is to fill up with little bubbles, and you'll see when you mix it, it's pretty low down in the mug, but when it cooks, it'll come way up. You'll have to watch for that. Look for the two different states of things. So that is all of the dry ingredients mixed up. Now we'll add the wet ingredients. And those are 3 tablespoons of milk, 1, 2, and 3. Two tablespoons of vegetable oil, 1 and 2. And then 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract, just enough to give it a nice flavor. And there we go. And not to forget 1 tablespoon of water, which I'll get from the sink. And add that in. Now that's everything ready to go. And we'll just stir it up. And once again, you can leave out the milk and instead use 1½ tablespoons of unsweetened applesauce and 1½ tablespoons of water. We'll just continue to stir this up until it looks all even. No dry spots. Don't worry about little lumps, but you want it to look like all the powder is mixed in and wetted with the liquid ingredients. If you need to, you can scrape the sides down just a little. I think that'll do. There are a few lumps in there. You can see reflecting in the light. But we want to make sure that that baking soda is mixed all through and everything else is ready to go. Now, we're going to put this in the microwave for 1 minute and 45 seconds on high. At this point, nothing's hot yet, so you don't need to protect yourself. But when you're taking things out of the microwave, you will need something to protect your hands. Oven mitts or gloves, even just winter gloves will do fine. It's a great suggestion for when kids are helping in the kitchen. Oven mitts can be way too big, but just your winter gloves from outside, if they're dry, will protect their hands just fine. I'll put this in the microwave for 1 minute and 45 seconds, and after it dings, I'll come back with the camera on again. Well, here we're back with just a few seconds left to go. And there it is. Let's take a look. Ooh. If you look at this, it's come way up in the mug. This is a pretty big mug, so it didn't come up over the top, but you might find that happens. And it looks all bubbly and delicious. It's still quite hot. This is a really good mug. So it didn't get too hot on the handle, but I do want to give you a couple of microwave cooking tips for when you do this yourself. First off, this is a microwave safe mug. No metal around the edges. Sometimes they put a little gold rim there. I never put spoons or anything metallic in the microwave because it can cause quite an electrical storm in there, and you don't want to do that to the parents' microwave. Now, the other trick that helps keep the handle cool, when you place something in the microwave, place the handle at the center and the mug, in this case, the mug or the other food, whatever, on the outside. As it rotates, that handle stays in the center, and the microwaves are strongest on the outside. So the mug here is actually quite hot, but the handle, I'm able to touch with my bare hands. Thin handles get a little hotter, so it is good to wear gloves. I have done this before with this mug, so I know that it's all right. Now, I wanted to ask you, what do you think made the cake rise like that? I gave a little talk about it before. It was A chemical reaction, that's right. It was the baking soda. Baking soda reacting with an acid. Now, you've probably done a couple of experiments before, or many of you have anyway, where you take a little baking soda, like so, nice dry powder, and mix it with vinegar. I'll turn the camera down here. While the mug cools, we can do a little experiment here ourselves. Listen to that. Now that's just regular vinegar and baking soda. That is a chemical reaction releasing carbon dioxide in all kinds of tiny bubbles. Now that's amazing, but acetic vinegar or regular vinegar, white vinegar, is about 3% acid. Like it's watered down a little, but it's much stronger vinegar. A stronger acid than you might find in things like milk. Milk has lactic acid, and the baking soda actually reacts to that while it's cooking. It needs liquid and acid. You've probably seen baking powder. Baking powder is baking soda with an acid mixed in. So it's all one thing, and you actually can just use it mixed with water for making biscuits and things where you might not be using milk. The applesauce in the dairy-free version is the same thing. It's a little bit acidic, and it's just enough to help make the cake rise. Now let's see, I'm going to touch this here. I think it's cooled off enough. Smells delicious and chocolatey. I think I'll give it a little test. I hope you enjoy yours as much as I'm going to enjoy this. Excellent. And that will definitely help chase the cold away. Now, that sort of concludes our experiment here. But for more kitchen science ideas, I recommend very strongly that you visit your local branch of the Bruce County Public Library for great books like this, The Kitchen Pantry Scientists, Biology for Kids and Chemistry for Kids, or others like that. Each branch has a number of science books for kids, STEM science, kitchen science, and just full of little experiments that you can do with things that you have at home already. Well, and I thank you very much for watching today's experiment, and I hope that you have a delicious time doing it yourself. And I hope to see you again very soon for another activity from the Bruce County Public Library.